In this video, Darrell and I talk about the woman in the red dress, the fancy new idea that you could be doing instead of working on the business that you already have. And if you don't know who we are, Darrell and I co-founded a company called RealBase, which we recently sold for 180 million. I was CTO, Darrell's head of product. So let's jump into today's convo and see what we had to say. One thing that's triggered me, and we can talk about it quickly. I'm triggered. But it's
I wonder if the AI shorts capturer can hear triggered and make you go like shaky with an angry emoji.
So what's got me, and this is a trap, right? Alex Hormozy talks about the woman in the red dress, and it's the best analogy for anything because I know this so well. When you're building a business and it's going well, but you want to grow more, you're impatient, you want to see, and you come up with constant ideas. That's the job of an entrepreneur is to come up with ideas and solutions all the time. Your brain is on hyper active mode, just doing that. Now, So the problem with that is you see something else and you go, this is a much better idea, or I can make money from this because you have a problem in this business that you haven't solved yet. So that could be, a problem with support or onboarding or sales or marketing or whatever it is. You haven't solved that. But you're like, hey, but if we did this thing, we could make money here. And this will bring in the income that we have. Rather than focusing on the actual problem that's, in your business, you go and try and start a new business or a new product or a new something. Now, what I've seen, and I almost got caught by this trap. So when I finished up with my full-time role, I was like, my goal is to do 6 apps in a year, right? Because I'm sitting on Twitter and I'm like, everyone, they're killing it. All these indie hackers, they're building 12 to 24 apps and they're just killing it out there. And that's how you do it, right? Because that's how you get validated product. Now, there's a massive problem with that. Because what my biggest thing and my takeaway from this, if you just to summarize it, was you do 12 products in a year, you're just leaving 12 shit products down the road. You've just created 12 shit products that you're never going to look at. You're actually not validating them because how are you marketing them? You don't have time to because you're now moved on to the next one. You've already forgotten about that one. You never actually develop anything of value, right? Like you could grab something where you're like, oh, this is really important. It's like, hey, it's validated. But like, how are you getting that validation? You can you can stumble and get across something lucky that you're like, this is awesome. But real big businesses are built by taking one idea and this is where I got triggered. It was the concept was this: on one hand, you have an indie dev saying, "Do not marry your startup," and you have Hormozy on the other hand saying, "Marry your business and get rid of all the other options." Right? You have when you create one thing and you have one option and one opportunity, you put everything into that thing and you make sure that thing wins. It doesn't matter what happens. It's like, I am dedicated to this. If it takes 10 years, I'm going to make it work. When you have that mentality, everything works. It may not be the same idea that you start with, which is fine. But as long as you're talking to your customers and talking to users and iterating and changing. Now, we saw this with RealHub, right? So RealHub started as we had a problem where we were like, providers need a platform where they can be free and pay a little bit of money and just have a platform. They don't have to worry about it themselves. Like all these, like fight for the little guy. We went out to market, like we built a product that worked for us. We went then out to market to try, and all the providers are like, nah, mate, sorry, you guys can just go get stuffed over there in the corner. So what did we do? We didn't just chuck that product in the bin and say, oh, it doesn't work. We then found other customers, which were our agents, and we started building for them because we saw that they needed a better platform. They wanted better workflow. We needed a better workflow. So what we were able to do is scale a services business while also building a better platform for our other side of the marketplace. After 7 years, we'd built such a good marketplace there. We'd pivoted in a sense, but it was all because we were dedicated to that one product. We could have we had like many ideas where we could have gone off in whole different tangents, one of them being Design Hub, place for design.
I think we got, as a business to business, we got a sneak peek into how important it is just to be in business for a long time. And I think what you're saying about the indie hacking movement, as it gets easier and easier to spool up these products, which it obviously is easy to do because there's 530 AI shorts editors, right? And they spool up overnight. It's not that hard to build products anymore, at least to get them to a starter point. There will be less and less trust. for brands that haven't been around very long, because you see them, they spool up, they get flipped, they get 2 customers, they get ditched, and people have paid for that, and they trust, and the trust will just break down over time for new people who aren't in the space for long enough. And then you will need to just be there for long enough for
Mm-hmm.
people to want to spend money. And we saw that in Real Hub with agents who didn't trust us because we've been around for 6 months. And it's much more prevalent in business to business. But with these like low ticket subscription things, I think over time, the indie hacker market, people will just not buy it because they're like, I don't know how long you're going to be around. And then it'll be even worse, flash in the pan income. They'll get 50,000 monthly recurring revenue for 2 months. And then it'll sort of teeter off.
You're already seeing this, right? Like there's already a whole bunch of these tools that are just abandoned. I
Yeah.
think the problem with is you can't really create anything of quality in such a short period of time. So, like,
No.
as users become more and more accustomed to a certain quality in product, because every product these days looks great, like anything you're used to, any consumer thing that they're used to or business tool, it looks great. It doesn't look like it was smashed together in 5 seconds. Now, don't get me wrong, if it solves a really big problem, that's awesome. But
Yeah, they
to
can
be
be valuable, but not like a long-term business at the same time.
Yeah, and that's a good thing. Like you also don't want to spend 10 years just building nothing and then getting a users. But I'm of the belief, get something out that's functional, try it and test it. If you can be the user, great, that's even better because then you don't have to worry so much about that. But in the end of the day, you want to deliver something of quality and of value. Like be
Yeah,
proud in what you make, right? Because
yeah,
it's the same as that Apple thing. Like they believe that people judge you on your first impression. And I'm the same. Like if I open up an app and it looks crap, I'm like, I don't want to
straight
put my
out.
credit
Yeah,
card here. Yeah, like
yeah,
you may just take my credit card, steal money, and then move on. I'll never be able to see. Like there needs to be some level of trust, and trust comes through, I guess, quality, presentation, time, like being around for long. You can jump on someone's YouTube or their company YouTube and go, "Dude, these guys have been around for 3 years, not just a flash in the pan, like you say."
yeah. They're not bailing on me. I
Yeah,
think
so
that's so important.
yeah, it's one of those things, and I guess I just was triggered by don't marry your startup idea
Yeah,
versus the other hand, big business is marry your startup idea. It's a complete
yeah,
opposite. It's a polar opposite. And like for me, it's like who's made the most money?
yeah,
Who's done it? Like I'm not gonna unfortunately I'm not gonna listen to someone who hasn't made $1 million yet. Or their business makes less than $1 million a year. It's not like you haven't really ever built a real big business. And I understand there's
yeah,
different lifestyles and things that people want to do. But when we want to talk business and have some opinion or wait to your opinion, show me what you've done first. And then we'll
yeah,
listen. And that's what Amazi says. It's like, take 5 years doing something and then make content rather than making content without ever doing something. Because your
yeah.
content
There's
actually
always
has
just
some.
so much nuance in that general advice that it's completely pointless noise. Like, I'm sure there's a million things that Hormozy has somewhat stepped his toe into and ditched. At the same time, there's plenty of indie hackers who should drop whatever they're doing and not marry it because it was a terrible idea. But then, like, knowing the difference between the two, there's like a million factors that can play into it. So people shouting that stuff into Twitter is just a bit useless, to be honest.
Yeah, I look. I also think like an idea can be awful, but if you're sitting there with a user and you find a user, and like, that's what I'm saying, it can be you. And I think that's what I actually am quite a strong proponent of. Build something for yourself,
Yeah.
because if you build something for yourself that solves a pain point, and it has to be painful and a problem, there
Someone
will
else
be
will have
other
it too.
people. There's like how many billion people in the world? Like 7 to 8 billion people.
I do not know.
That you need it. Let's be honest. If you had 100 customers and it was a good product and you could charge enough money, that's going to be a lot of money for most people. Turn that into 1,000, and once you have 1,000, you can spool that bad boy up. We only
Yeah.
had like when we did our merger, we only had 4,000 customers, right?
Yep.
But that was doing a
About
lot of
that.
money.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what the thing is, and I do think like if people like if you're not like look at that like I could have done Clipflow for 1 month and had it
And
and
said
been
it's
like,
a
cool,
bad idea. I'm moving on. Yeah.
yeah, it's done. But
Yeah.
what
I
am I
think
learning? I'm just learning and
anyone can
going to
push
grow.
through the point that other people might have pivoted, right?
Yeah.
It's just about if you really want it, you're going to make it work. And it might not look exactly like it does today, but you will make it work if you keep pushing through it.
Yeah. I totally agree. Like, I think, yeah, that's one of my biggest things. And I think I had to relearn that lesson, which is funny because I've always been like when we did Real Hub, I had my dad always giving me a new idea every 5 minutes. And
Yeah.
I always had to
But
be
you
like,
showed
no.
up every day for the thing, which was agent services. Yeah.
Yep. And it's like, I have to make this work. I don't have another option. I have to make this work. And it's the same with ClickFlow. I've really changed my mentality where ClickFlow was just one of those, I'm going to use it. That's why I'm going to use it as I'm a learning experiment. It's going to be cool. I'm going to build it and I'm going to leave it on the shelf and see what happens. But what's going to happen to
Yeah.
it? Nothing.
It's
It's
going
not
to
going to
stay
get
on the
better.
shelf.
It's not going to
Yeah.
get marketed. Like no
Packages
one.
will get outdated. Eventually, you'll try and pull it from GitHub and it won't work because something broke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now my mentality is like ClipFlow is the thing. Everything else is a distraction. We have lots of opportunities to build new cool things that you could think this is better. But like we've already done ClipFlow for 6 months. We already know some of the problems. We're already figuring out things. Like you're not getting that when you're just chucking ideas in the bin all every second minute. Like they
Yeah.
never really turn into anything. So, like,
Yeah.
I mean, I think if you're going to do something like that, and that was kind of like your style, I think at least give it a year per. Like at
Yeah.
least a year worth of work, and like actually give it time. Like not like I worked on it 1 hour a week for a year. Like no, give it a proper time where you've done the grind and you've put in the effort, and then you can see like, no, this is not working or this is working. But you never know what day is the day that it grabs, right? You never
Yeah,
know
you'd be
that.
like that. The Notion post where they were like failing for 5 years and thought it was all going to die, and then it pops off.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
could have
that's
just moved
from
on.
perseverance. Yeah, they should have said this isn't working. We should move on.
And they what did they have? They had version 3 before they even made it. So they'd chuck
Yeah,
2 versions in the bin. And it's the same as what we've done.
complete rewrites. Yeah,
We've got V1, chucked it in the bin. But because you learn from it, and again, we're using our own tool, we're figuring it out, and then you go V2, and then you don't know what it looks like. But yeah, I think like even just marketing, like how long does it take to market a product? You have to learn from that. Everything, especially as a founder, you're learning new skills. You can't go and hire these people and just say,
yeah,
you do my marketing. It's like, you've got to learn that. So everything takes time. And I think everyone's impatient, and I'm impatient. I'm not going to lie. I'm impatient. I want it to work because it gives you that feedback that you need. But
hmm
business, Michael Mosey says, you keep the person who wins is the person who keeps showing up and never gives up. That's
yeah,
the person who wins because everyone gives up. Like, look at the podcast stats. If you stop,
yeah.
most people don't even get past what episode 10
3,
or
I
12?
think. No, I
Yeah.
think it's even lower. I think it's like 3.
Yeah. So like that's it. And the same with YouTube, like right. Any of you listen to any of them, it's like it's not about all these hacks and stuff. It's about who shows up and keeps making videos. Look at Mr. Beast.
Keep improving a little bit. Yeah,
I actually listened to I never knew about him, but he started, and when he was starting, he was like his mum was like telling him like, bro, you need to stop this because you're not making any money, and he was making no money. And he
yeah.
just
I mean, in his mother's defense, he was counting from 0 to 1 million on video. Like it wasn't like he was changing the world back then.
I know,
One,
but he was
2,
trying, right?
3. Jimmy, come on, Jimmy. It's time to
Yeah.
stop counting now.
But I think the
Yeah, he was
thing,
trying, and that's what mattered.
the takeaway was he believed he could do it. And
Yeah,
if you keep believing you can do it and you keep trying and you keep iterating and you keep getting better, you can't just do the same thing over and over because that's just insanity. But if you keep
yeah,
every day getting better at what you do and what you're building and becomes better and better and better, there is a day where that thing is now good enough for other people to pay attention, right?
yeah,
And you're going to be learning a lot. And that's the thing. Once you've learned all those lessons and stuff, and like let's say after a couple of years you do fail and you throw it away, which we've had, but I even look back at the things that I've failed on, the other apps that I've built, and I was like, if I put 100% into that, that would be running today. It would
yeah. Out
100%
for
be running
dinner.
today.
Out for dinner would be Uber Eats.
Yep, it would be big, and because what I didn't do because I was too young and I didn't understand was I should have listened to user feedback. Like there were restaurants and stuff telling me what they wanted, and I should have listened to that. But because we
Yeah,
were like just dedicated to one path, we didn't really understand that. And also because it was a
yeah,
side hustle, so it was very hard to do. But if I'd
yeah.
listened to
Not
that,
focused again.
yeah. So yeah, that's it. I think it is. It's like if you focus on one thing, you win. It's just
Yeah.
how it is, and do it for a long time.
Well, I think like the metrics of viewers. So like YouTube is giving up. The metrics of viewers is for people who don't like Jimmy. Obviously, had the shortcut of he believed in himself 100%. So he never doubted that he was going to make it. So he didn't rely on viewer numbers apart from improving his product. Whereas a lot of people they get that like feedback of not many viewers and give up. Same thing for the podcast. Not enough listeners, give up. So they're using that like as a validation of if I should do it. And like in business, you don't necessarily profit every day from day one. You have to wait for the profit. So you believe that it's going to profit one day. Then the vision is what actually carried you through until profit reinforces your belief, or
Yeah.
viewers for YouTube.
And I think it's, you need to believe that, because a lot of people around you, no matter who they are, could be your parents, could be your partners, could be anyone, but they could say, bro, you're just sitting there and you're not making any money. Like, you're doing nothing. What are you doing?
You're
You're
just
sitting there.
sitting in your garage talking to a computer screen.
Yeah. Like, what are you doing? You're doing nothing.
Yeah.
Like, get a real job, you know? And
Yep.
it's up to you to believe that you can make it and improve and keep grinding and put in the reps, right?
Yeah.
Like, so
Oh, I
that you do.
saw a good stat the other day. They surveyed in American high schools. I think 38% of people wanted to be a professional YouTuber
Yep.
when they grow up.
There we go.
Crazy. It
Yeah.
is a real job now.
It's
People
great.
don't think it's not a real job anymore.
Yeah. And the thing
It's
is,
a real job.
they're going to have to grind, because I've watched on the Facebook groups, all these people giving up. Like, after 2 years and giving up, it's like, were you just making the same video the whole time? Did you get better?
Yeah.
Like,
But
I
also,
there's
like, they're all coming into, imagine it's the same as the engineering space, right? All these people went through boot camps and they came up and they want to be engineers, and then there's a flood in the market of engineers, and then there'll be a shortage. And all these people coming up now will do the same into YouTube, into the most competitive space it's ever been. So they're going to need all the help they can get.
Yeah, and the good thing is that there's more and more viewers, so there's more and more niche content. There's more and more stuff. So, that's why we're building what we are, because we believe that YouTube's going to just keep growing, exploding, and people need tools to make it easier, and barrier of entry needs to be simpler. So
Yep.
yeah, so we've got paid versus organic marketing, user testing versus self-testing. You choosing something like Rails versus React. We've got sticking it out with one business. So I'm just gonna React versus Rails. I almost think we can turn this into a podcast. I don't think the shorts
Yep.
is the way. I think we should cut this into topics and just have like a podcast style. I think this is actually quite a good format for us to do a podcast chat once a week, and this could
Yep.
be a really good thing if we just came up with topics that we saw in the week
Yep.
and then just go
It
through
does
those.
need to be shorts, though, just to clarify.
You
It
can
needs to
do
be
short,
shorts to feed into the long.
yeah, but Hormozy and them were saying that doesn't really work for them. He does do it on
Yep.
Instagram and stuff, but
He's
because
got
that's his whole,
millions and millions of followers.
yeah. But he was saying like shorts viewers didn't turn into long viewers, so because people shorts that watch shorts just want to watch shorts. But like I get it, if as a
Yeah, that's
branding
okay
whole,
too, though. Yeah, you get subs.
yeah. So it's more of a branding thing. It's like as a
Yeah.
brand as a
I've
whole.
seen a couple of the educators talk about it, and they're like, if you want a good long form channel, do not start doing shorts, because then you grow your shorts audience, and it's only a shorts audience. But for podcasters, they all say do shorts because it feeds people to the podcast.
I would love to
So,
have the shorts for my Instagram and Twitter.
yeah.
Like that's what I'd
And for
probably do.
Initium clips, it may as well be up there on Initium clips. Put
Yeah,
all the
as
shorts up there.
shorts. Yeah, that's fine. But yeah, I do think this like the long form content's really cool. So yeah, that's sick. I'm gonna do another. I'm gonna actually do a video. I guess I wanted to do a normal one, but I guess I don't have to do it anymore. It's like sticking to one thing. I wanted to talk about that today because I actually have it in my notes. Like it
Yep.
really triggered me. Um,
Yep.
yeah, just because it's like such an opposing opinion, and everyone's obviously valid, entitled to their own opinions, but it just
Yep.
coming from a space of working on one thing for 7 years, and even this thing, like I know that if I gave this after 1 month, it would be nothing. It would be nothing. I
Yeah,
was just
100%.
leaving.
It'll go to zero.
I'd be leaving apps in the wake, and I'd be like, nothing works until I find some
Yep.
viral thing that works. And yeah, maybe it's
Yeah.
a great idea, and it could be a way of doing it. But man, like, yeah, like having a whole bunch of apps that are $1,000. Like Hormozy talked about one of his mates. He's like, "How many companies do you own?" He's like,
Oh,
20
the
something.
60 company. Oh, he didn't even know.
He was
He's
on a
like, I don't know. I have to
spreadsheet.
check my spreadsheet. Yeah.
Like, which one
Saw that
makes the
one.
most money? And he's like, this one. It's like, why didn't you put all your effort into that? Wouldn't that be less stressful?
Oh,
He's
yeah.
like, yeah. He's like, yeah, well,
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah.
Like, that's the same, right? Like,
But
it's
see, he had to abandon 57 companies for that. He had to. So it's like, oh, don't abandon things, but then also abandon things. But he has a lot more data to back that up. I'd say,
Yeah, but
rather
also he
than
started 59. If he didn't start
yeah,
59, he'd only have one, so he wouldn't have to do
yeah,
it. So
yeah,
by carrying them along, like that's what happens with indie hacking. You end up having 59 projects that are all costing money because they all do.
yeah. I mean,
Like
I
you have,
think maybe the indie hacking space just needs to start building for that flexibility, right? Because they're all just creating one app to do one thing. They're not thinking about it being flexible for later. So they build this one thing for one purpose, and that can really impact the long term growth as well
you know what I would do if
because they
I was
can't
like,
pivot it.
I would rather than try and build 20 apps in a year, go and find a problem and go and talk to a business. Go and
Yeah,
talk
just
to
build an
a
app for them. Build one
Yeah,
app for
build an
one
app
person.
for a business and say, "I'm gonna come here and I'm gonna solve it." Like, everyone knows someone who works for a company,
Yeah.
and it's
I mean,
B2B,
even if
like,
you don't know someone who works for a company, you know a dentist, you know a mechanic, you know a landscaper. I'll build
yeah,
you an
you
app.
know, a builder,
Simple.
like, there's heaps of problems, like, there's more problems going like, just find someone who runs a small business and you say, like, "I'll build this one thing for you,"
Yeah.
and then build it, and then and iterate. It's gonna teach you so many things, like how to talk to customers, how to get all that feedback. It's rather than just building shit on the internet, throwing it out there to a bunch of indie hackers and then saying, "Go on
This
my,
looks amazing.
my
It's the
product."
exact counter opposite to actually delivering a product to a real customer. Delivering
Yeah.
something on Twitter, everyone's like, yeah, that's cool. As opposed to delivering it to a real customer, like, it doesn't do exactly this thing that I didn't ask for
I'm
in the
not
first
gonna
place.
use it.